Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Every Week English with Josh Golson. I'm your host, as always, a couple weeks late, right? Um, yeah, you get busy, you go to a couple of Warhammer tournaments, um, traveling, that sort of thing. This week, we will be talking a bit about social media and modals of deduction. Um, it's very quick for those. We'll probably use that and hop into first conditionals and education, right? It's a much more interesting chapter um, than the others. Because I'm a teacher, I have a lot of experience in it as well. Now, of course, for our idioms this week, it will be Swan Song, which is the last piece of work of an artist before his or her death. You can also say, I'm going out with a swan song, right? It's to die with some grand or great achievement. This painting was in my Hussein Swan Song. I don't know who that is, right? But we can switch that. Um, let's say Misty Mountain Hop by Led Zepplin was Led Zeppelin's Swan Song. It's just, if you really like it, you can say it's a great achievement, right? As the band is no longer. And then we've got Wild Goose Chase. Quite often you'll hear it said as Wild Goose Hunt also. Definition futile. Futile just means meaningless, right? Without meaning. Chase or hunt, right? To do something meaningless. And so people can send you on a wild goose hunt. Or you might be doing something and it turns out that it is a wild goose hunt. So, for example, catching the two thieves together on a jam-packed road was no less than a wild goose chase for the policeman. All right, so the cops couldn't get them. It was very difficult. And bury the hatchet. I would say bury the hatchet, it's used a lot more than the other two. It is just ending an argument. Here it says quarrel. Same thing, right? Or a fight, you can also think in order to make peace, right? For example, my father buried the hatchet by equally dividing the pasta between me and my sister. There we go. So our three idioms, good ones, especially bury the hatchet, just means to become friends again, for example, right? And then we'll go ahead, hop into those modals, actually the modals of deduction. Top three biggest ones are might, can't, and must. It's to say how certain we are of something. Sometimes you can say may instead of might. That is like 50-50. All right, must is 100% certain, and that is true. Might or may, 50-50, 50% certain. And then can't is the exact opposite of must, right? So you are certain that it is impossible, right? There is no possibility for something. And that's about it for those. We use it for stereotyping. You look at a person, you look at a situation scenario, and you try and guess, basically, what is going on, right? So, for example, if you see somebody who's very well dressed, right, and they're driving, let's say, Ferrari or Lamborghini, you can say he must make a lot of money, right? He must be rich. You're 90 to 100% certain that he's rich because he has all that stuff. Now, in reality, he could be renting those things. He could rent a tuxedo. He could rent a car. It's not impossible. That's why I say 90 to 100%. Of course, if you see somebody who is living on the streets, right, a homeless person, a beggar, a bum, then they can't be rich. Right? You are certain that it is impossible for them to be rich. And then if you see somebody like myself, I own an apartment and I teach online. You say he may be rich, right? He might be. Um, don't know, right? 50-50 guess. It's one of those funny things. Um, like I said, it's super simple grammar for this chapter. And it's just 3 vocab words, right? Now, while we're here, we might as well hop into the grammar for the next chapter, which is first conditionals. Now, conditionals are one of the hardest things in the English language, or at least that's what a lot of students tell me. But first conditionals are the easiest of those, one of the easiest. Zero conditionals are a bit more easy, right? They are easier. First conditionals are up there. And so to construct it, right, you have if plus present simple verb, and then it's a comma, will or will not, won't, plus your infinitive. So it is for future plans that are realistic. If it is gray outside, it will rain, right? If it is sunny outside, it won't rain. That's it. If you do not study, you won't pass the exam. If you study, you will pass. So with conditionals, you can often flip them and they have the same meanings. And then 2 things that go along with conditionals, it's a dependent clause and independent clause, right? So depend means that you need something else to happen, right? For example, with studying, right? That is dependent on passing, right? Or passing is dependent on studying. You need to pass so that you will, or you need to study so that you will pass. Right, there it is, dependent. Versus an independent clause. It's not related with anything. Like, I eat dinner if there will be food. If there won't be food, I won't eat dinner. That's dependent, for example. Good. And of course, it's always present tense after if. Typically, it's present simple, but I tell students you can use most any presents, right? Either present continuous or present perfect. I'd say for most people, stick with the classics, stick with present simple. And then afterwards, in the other clause, it's will or won't, plus the infinitive. And then typically we go through a lot of different examples and students make them up. And that's what all of these examples are here. I'd like you guys to make up one and post it in the comments. Our first conditional, so a realistic future plan. Now, the next thing that goes along with that chapter is what's called a future time clause, right? Which just says we use the present tense after these vocab words when, as soon as, until, before, after, to talk about the future, right? So for example, we will eat lunch when you join us, right? So there, join is present tense, right? I will play in a tournament after Friday. You don't need anything. There it goes. When it rains, I bring an umbrella, and so on and so forth there. If you guys know those vocab words, then you're pretty good with these, right? As soon as is dependent on something else. Again, so it's like, as soon as I take the test, all right, so I'm doing it, I will pass. Okay. Until I take the test, I study. So then when I take the test, I will be prepared. And of course, before I take the test, I study also. And after I take the test, I celebrate, right? Because I passed the so it should be easy peasy for all of those. But otherwise, we'll hop into the English file textbook again. This is chapter 6B, which is every picture tells a story. They go through stereotypes about what different pictures say about you. I have never really been a fan of social media. Uh, for a while, I got rid of Facebook, right? I just didn't have one for like 5 years, and I still don't use Facebook that often. Um, I use Instagram and a bit. That is, my Instagram is josh.golson, right? Or Every Week English, um, either or. One is for business, one is for myself and my travels. But typically, they talk about stereotyping for your profile picture, and it's very sarcastic, very mean one. But at least this book does have the flip. So, for example, they say the portrait says you're boring. It's you, nothing else special. Childhood photo, um, you think everything used to be better, right? Um, a pet, right? If it's a cat, you're a woman without a boyfriend. It's called a spinster, typically. An older woman without a boyfriend, no prospects at the future. Spinster is a woman who used to make yarn, right, back in medieval times. And she would do that all day because she did not have family. And so that's where that word comes from, spinster, Spinster. Wedding photo, it means you are по-русски подкаблучник, right? Or по-английски, in English, whipped, right? Basically, you are under your wife, and your whole family revolves around, your whole life revolves around. Family photo, your biggest accomplishment is your children or your family, which I think that's quite a good thing to aim for. It is the simplest legacy we can create for ourselves, right? And I think when we really get down to it, it's the main thing of the future, right? Popular culture, you have no personality that says, right, you're very uninteresting. I very much like portrait. Party photo, you're an extrovert and you cannot live by yourself, right? And you're stupid also, right? No photo, it means that you're an idiot because you can't do anything, right? You haven't figured it out. And then we go through these pictures, and a classic English file, classic liberal thing to do is to stereotype someone and say, oh no, that's not true, right? And so, of course, that's what we do with all of these. We say, oh, that guy might be a criminal, right? Might be, maybe. You say, she certainly is a model, right? She must be a model, that sort of thing. She must be Asian, right? He must be Asian, and so on. And of course, in the back of the book, we read about them. Of course, they're all millionaires, they're all famous people. Or I think in number 3, she's a serial killer, right? So it is what's called inverting expectations, right? So you are expecting something because it's logical, there's a lot of truth based in it, as all stereotypes are based on truth, and it flips that. It's a cliche, which just means it's done a lot. The English file textbooks, they're quite liberal, lefty. They take articles from The Guardian a lot, which is biased newspaper. It's quite funny. Number 4, she's a radical Islamic senator, right? Where rumors have it, she married her brother in order to get to the States, right? And of course, the book doesn't say anything about that. They say, oh, she's wonderful, senator, that sort of thing. Likewise, we go through the vocab of the body, and this tends to be some of the easiest vocab. in the entire book, right? And as far as the test goes, it's called a gimme, which means it's very, very easy, right? Because we talked about uh, mouth, head, feet, and not only feet, but toes, right? Toes, toes, neck, hands, arms, back, face. And this is called your forehead, the top, because four fingers can only fit there. So that is your forehead. Um, Likewise, you've got your cheeks, your chin, your Adam's apple, if you're a man, and you've got calves as well as shins. So the back of your leg, that's called your calves. The front of your legs, those are your shins. You got different kinds of teeth. You've got canines, those are very pointy. You have molars, those are at the back of your mouth. Okay? And of course, your different fingers. You've got your thumb, your pointer or forefinger, your middle finger, your ring finger, and your pinky finger. Normally, with that, I explain to most students know them, but they don't know why the middle finger is bad. And typically, a lot of people do not know. And it comes from a time when these people who love their queen, king now, and fish and chips, and they talked like this, mate. I love me queen, I love me fish and chips, and I ate them frog-eating buggers across the sea. Right? Who did they hate? There's other people who go, oui, oui, mon ami, I love frogs and snails and wine. Right? So it's the British who hated the French. And they fought what's called the 100 Years' War. Of course, it did not last 100 years. It lasted around 115 years, 120 years, where England had territory in France and they were fighting for that, over the French crown also. Quite an interesting war. Even there was a chance that it could have been a combined English-French monarchy, right, at one point, like a super state almost. And basically, there were these, people who ride around on horseback and they wear heavy armor. Those are your knights. And then you have all those other people who work the fields, work in the farms, and the knights say, hey, you know, um, bringing me your food, right? And at this time, the English developed what Robin Hood used, right? So that's your bow and arrow. And the English created the long bow. And the long bow was so powerful that it could go through knights' armor. And every peasant had to train using the long bow every single week. So they created a very good fighting force. And when a knight comes over and a knight insults you, the peasants used to show two fingers, right? So if you show the two fingers in England, it's quite bad. And then when you go over to the States, you always have to lose something, and so it goes down to the middle finger, right? It means I can kill you with the bow. Ring finger is logical, you wear a ring on it. In Russian, it's called the безымянный finger, so it means no name or without a name. Because students always get a laugh from it. Now I say, what does this look like, right? And if I have guy students, I say, well, me and artists and Giannis, we have right one of these. My dog Benny has one of these, but all the ladies do not have these. And then you see a look of recognition, and then people normally giggle, right? They laugh, and they understand. So in the olden times, in the 1600s, the Russian peasants used to go around and call it the pee-pee finger, right? So it's a penis finger, right? That used to be the name for it. And the Russian Orthodox Church said, Nelzia, right, don't do that. And so it lost its name, right? It is the no-name finger now. And that is where that name came from. Right? Likewise, we have some verbs related to the body. Again, that'll be like bite with your mouth, clap with your hands, you kick with your legs, soccer, football players kick, you nod yes, and then you shake your head no. You point at things with your finger, you smell with your nose, right? You smile with your lips. And then a frown is the upside down. So that's why in English we say turn that frown upside down. Um, if somebody is upset or sad, you tell them to smile, basically. To stare, you look at somebody with your eyes and you don't break off eye contact. Taste, I think everybody knows. Touch, everybody knows. And whistle. Right? You're not supposed to whistle in the house or in the apartment, or else you will lose money. The other one is to snap. Right? There's no superstition with snap. Likewise. So lots of good verbs related to the body. Again, as for social media, not such a big fan. Except Instagram to build a following. It's interesting to see what people have on there. Otherwise, this one quite short. We went through those two different types of grammar. And then don't forget your idioms, right? That'll be your Swan Song, wild goose chase or hunt, and to bury the hatchet. This has been Josh Golson. Check out my books, right? Fantasy, very cool. Very realistic, cross between Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. Otherwise, if you would like a class, reach out to me at my email, everyweekenglish@outlook.com, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a wonderful week. Keep speaking that English.